With that as our stage, welcome to the podcast, Jess.
It's great to be here. Thank you for having me, Travis. For me, it was a combination of two passions. I come from a food background. I've owned restaurants, I've cooked, I've done all sorts of things like that. And I've also done a lot of technology and I've worked with...
There is a similarity. There's a nearly identical process between the health food tech space and the healthcare. Those two areas, after those hands shot up into the air, they seem to be ones that are pretty similar. But in your view, is it similar because it has the same problems, or were you referencing the throttling that takes place between the manufacturer and that in-state user? What's the same in your mind or those investors' minds when they put their hand in the air?
The data set AI, other than what is being done at a macro level by your Oracles, your IBMs, your SAEs, those companies are working on database stuff at a macro level, but they're doing it for large corporate clients with deep pocketbooks.
Of these, I'll say, legacy systems, and you consider where we're going with AI and the advancement of our technology, it doesn't sound like it's going to be rapidly moving past the idea of scanning SKUs on a pair of forceps, as an example, or for some piece of equipment, a computer automated trailer or something. But where do you see this stuff? Welcome to our podcast today. I'm your host, Travis Garland, the CEO of Kickstand AI, where we solve practical problems that amplify the impact of healthcare and wellness organizations through automations and AI technologies. Today, I'm joined by Jess McCarter, co-founder and chief strategy officer at Base 86, a company at the forefront of transforming healthcare supply chains to elevate and empower interbusiness commerce through innovation and seamless automation. Jess is an entrepreneur whose journey spans several industries, including food tech, healthcare, and real estate, bringing a unique perspective on how legacy systems can hold back innovation, and what it takes to pivot and thrive in challenging times. His leadership at Base 86 is rooted in a decade of experience building and scaling businesses. After the pandemic forced a dramatic pivot from restaurant supply chains to healthcare, Jess and Base 86 team quickly adapted their technology to meet the needs of dental practices, showing how agility and willingness to challenge the status quo are essential for survival and growth. Today's episode explores the theme of legacy IT systems, where they fall short, and what works instead. We'll dive into real-world examples of how outdated IT systems create inefficiencies, security risks, and technical debt in healthcare, and how modern solutions like those provided by Base 86 are driving change with automation, data transparency, and AI-powered insights. With that as our stage, welcome to the podcast, Jess.
It's great to be here. Thank you for having me, Travis.
Of course. You're an impressive thought leader. We've had a couple of conversations leading up to this, and certainly love to have you express your thoughts on this podcast as here we go. But that thought leadership in business and technology space is quite powerful for sure. So tell me in our audience a little bit about yourself and about Base 86.
Sure. I've been, as you alluded to, doing this for more like 7 years, but is that close enough to a decade?
Okay, I'll go with a decade. It's fine.
We have an unusual name for a healthcare startup. I'll just start there. We started actually as a restaurant, a food technology company. And so our primary platform, which was AI back then, although in 2018, 2019, much more rudimentary than what we have with today's modern large language models and data sets. For me, it was a combination of two passions. I come from a food background. I've owned restaurants, I've cooked, I've done all sorts of things like that. And I've also done a lot of technology, and I've worked with Sama before then, and Sama is one of the forefront of data validation for machine learning. So I've been looking at data sets and data problems for a long time. I'm not an engineer. I don't know how to actually develop the things, but I've surrounded myself with people who do, and that led Base 86 as in like, oh, we're 86, we're out of something. And it led to Base 86 starting in food, and we were doing quite well with our system, and then the pandemic hit, and we lost all our customers. It's like, well, okay, what do we do now? Investors? Anyone have an idea of a marketplace? The asymmetry between really large suppliers and distributors and all the small people who do the specialized things. And then the people who really need to be procured for, even if they're not procurement specialists. If that's could be a big company that's got procurement specialists, everyone else, supply chain wizards. But the person who needs the stuff, the person who should be like specifying what they need and how much, that person, like a chef in a restaurant, has specialized knowledge and really should be focusing on their job and not figuring out procurement or even telling you what they need to get their job done. That part, because we have machines, that part should be automated. They do it one time. They say, these are the things I need to get through the day and provide incredible clinical care. Or if they're not clinical, if they're in a research setting, here's all of the pipettes I need to figure out the cure to this horrible thing. The one doctor and one dentist in our investor pool started shooting their hands up.
Oh, goodness.
That
immediate.
We might want to look at the healthcare supply chain. And we did. And we recognized it was exactly alike. So we went into deep dive mode, rebuilt our data system, focused and retrained it on new data sets, Started with the dental market because that was our product at that point was focused on the end purchaser. And that works well, but the sales cycles are long and our impact on the industry is small because at most you're going to get 10% adoption. But in between the end purchaser, be it a hospital, a doctor, a dentist, a veterinary professional, whomever, in between that person and the person who makes most of the stuff, there's almost always a distributor. And there are far fewer distributors than there are manufacturers or hospital systems and offices. So by focusing our product, refocusing it on how to help the distributor cross-reference, automate their systems, prepare requests for quotations almost instantaneously, we were able to impact the efficiency of the overall system at its greatest point. Now, we have products that help the end user, and we can talk about those later, and we have products that help the manufacturer, which I know we're going to be talking about legacy systems soon. You'll find most of the legacy systems at the manufacturer level when it comes to healthcare.
Interesting.
Particularly your more traditional widgets, not innovating on incredible new lasers or probes or scanners. Those folks run some serious legacy stuff. And so if you like the horror stories, the people following along want to know like how bad it can get,
we might need to.
We can show you.
But you made a comment that there is a similarity. There's a nearly identical process between the health food tech space and the healthcare. Those two areas, after those hands shot up into the air, they seem to be ones that are pretty similar. But in your view, is it similar because it has the same problems, or are we referencing the throttling that takes place between the manufacturer and that end state user? What's the same in your mind or those investors' minds when they put their hand in the air?
Well, the similarity is one, technologically underserved, and this will come as a surprise to a lot of people in the healthcare industry. But you have a combination of real inertia when it comes to developing technology at the ERP level, which is what tracks kind of all the stuff being bought and sold, being manufactured, et cetera. They're big systems. They're very expensive. So you can have a hospital acquisition right now where one hospital group buys another hospital group or just an individual hospital, and they will run two ERPs side by side because integrating a large system ERP can cost $100 million. It's insane. So you have legacy systems that are very expensive. And then at the individual level, in a medical office, in one manufacturing plant where they're making the supplies, or in a distributor's office, there are not a lot of software companies developing tools. There's big money in B2C. There's big money in social apps. There's big money in all of the kind of AI systems you see that help you make a video or write something for you. But the data set AI, other than what is being done at a macro level by your Oracles, your IBMs, your SAEs, those companies are working on database stuff at a macro level, but they're doing it for large corporate clients with deep pocketbooks. There is nowhere in the healthcare system with deep pocketbooks. So it's not happening there. It's not being developed for medical. And so it's an obvious high need situation. Why are we not trying to gain every efficiency possible when it comes to taking care of people's health? But there's not a lot of people doing it. So the closeness of the market dynamics and forces that, compared to where we were in food tech, it was just a no-brainer for us. We were already developing into that kind of technologically underserved market with really similar dynamics in the variety of items sold, the specialty of knowledge you need about the items to purchase them. This is not something you just put on Amazon with it has 2 in a pack, has, this feature. You have complex data sheets. At the end user level, you have HIPAA requirements and tracking requirements throughout that come from the FDA. There are companies that specialize in hardware like RFID tags, which will track individual shipments of things, individual items within it. And if there's a recall, they can ping those RFID tags, not just to find the SKUs or serial numbers that are being recalled, but also where it's located in a giant hospital. Just track it down, just like you lost keys with Find My. So
I like that. So when you think of these, I'll say legacy systems, and you consider where we're going with AI and the advancement of our technology, it doesn't sound like it's going to be rapidly moving past the idea of scanning SKUs on a pair of forceps, as an example, or for some piece of equipment, a computer automated trailer or something. But where do you see this stuff? Fill me in.
Oh, well, see, here's the thing. We have these legacy systems that are severely out of date because of how expensive it is to update them, upgrade them, and more importantly, how incredibly expensive it is to integrate. Why not leapfrog past the existing system entirely? Because what we have now is systems that store data. They require constant data input. So what you're talking about, that scanning at the user level, that's more data input. People trying to solve this with technology, I'm not going to name names or shame, but there are some people right now who have developed some pretty sophisticated AI technology, but we feel that they've come at it from the exact wrong viewpoint, which is that they start inventory first. People don't like doing inventory. That's how stuff gets lost. No one wants to start their day by going into a closet and counting things.
The truth.
No one wants to sit there like they're at the self-checkout at the grocery store with a laser scanner trying to get these things, and half the time it doesn't beep, doesn't register. You do it again, move it in and out.
And then there's 14 that automatically pop up, and it's always wrong.
Yes. So people hate that stuff. And yes, AI to date, when it comes to data sets like this, because you have large language models that are trained on words, but they're trained on words that are related to what AI is being used for. And then you have data models that are trained on just numbers, and they're very good at finding just numbers. And the problem is that a lot of these items fall in between. And so by combining the data, number, all the numerical stuff, with a large language model that's trained on the specific terminology used in our marketplace, we can create a system that learns. And it learns all the way through. It learns how many things should get to a place. It learns how often those things should be reordered as it starts to integrate with procedures. There's, people might complain about the private insurance market in the United States of America, but it has an incredible advantage for us when we're dealing with these legacy systems and trying to pivot through healthcare and come into a way to use AI in it. And that is, they have everything coded. Every last procedure has a code. You don't get reimbursed if you're not coded. Specialize in medical coding. Command the same salaries as a really, really good punter in the NFL.
To that end, though, do you think that's going to remain? Do you think it's going to continue?
The thing is that I don't mean to offend them, but their job will get automated in the same way.
Right.
Tracking of all of these serial numbers. But you have a manifest, you have a system that knows how often things should be reordered, and it's plus or minus 10%, which is better than what the supposed inventory controlled system is doing now anyway, because people don't do inventory. And so it keeps you out of your edge cases, which are, you can overorder, and that is really problematic to your top line. You're spending a lot of money. It's also problematic to your bottom line, because when you overorder, you end up with all of these things with expiration dates. Now, when it comes to expired aspirin, let's get real. All that happens 10 years later is that its efficacy goes down. But you can't use that in the healthcare system. If it's expired, it must be disposed of. So when you overorder, you have that problem. When you underorder, that's where our name comes from, the 86, back from when we were restaurant tech. When you're 86 at your home base of something, you can't do procedures. So that's expensive to your top line because you're losing top line revenue. And again, to your bottom line because you're adding to expenses of having all of this stuff sitting there. And all these people sitting there, and they don't have the tools to get their job done that day. So if we have a top line revenue problem, and we have a bottom line revenue problem, and we have a no one wants to do inventory problem, what's the solution? Procurement that is powered by AI. It looks at all of the data, that reads all of the transactions, it spots the inefficiencies automatically. It does the cross-referencing, like, hey, let's use COVID as an example again, why we pivoted, but also how we recognize that healthcare is so important. You've got people scrambling for PPE, this personal protective equipment that is the lifeblood of keeping these first responders and hospital people out there and being able to work. They have to have respirators. They have to have a certain quality of gloves. They have to have certain tools and protective equipment to do their job day in and day out. But no one knows where it is. Where can we get more of it? So you've got people clicking around trying to figure out where it comes from. Shouldn't you know already every single vendor that has an approved product? Oh, you don't, because these legacy systems don't cross-reference data. So that's where we started. We started by exploring the accessible data for what people sell and cross-comparing it and using the natural language descriptions and the product spec sheets, which come with every data set, to cross-compare.
Okay.
And we discovered interesting things.
I feel like there's a little bit of foreshadowing that's coming in this statement. I'm gonna hold us back on that piece, but I'm gonna switch back a little bit to the idea of dynamic pricing. I'm gonna kind of ask you a little bit about when you have this ability to view across the landscape, across the ecosystem of the supplies that are out there and the customers that are asking for it and the manufacturers that are producing it. Tell me a little bit about one of these sort of dynamic models that you guys have that helps. Let me not say what it helps. Let me let you give the skinny on this, because I feel like it's a pretty important piece as it relates to where we're moving in this particular industry. Tell me about this dynamic pricing that you guys have.
Sure. This is already human powered. This happens, right? So you've got people responding to a request for quotation from a large hospital system for a huge list of things that they purchase, a formulary. You have group purchasing organizations that are taking the formularies of all of their customers and collating them and buying in bulk. And then you have suppliers who are responding to that, or manufacturers who sell direct to customer responding to that. And everyone's trying to come up with the price. The price is a happy medium between protecting the margins of the people that have to build these things and sell these things, and protecting the bottom line income for the people who are buying the things. Right? The days of an MSRP for any item are coming to an end. I can walk into any car showroom now, and I've got a lot more information at my fingertips than what they used to print on that sticker. I know what the packages are. I know how you can order them together or not. All these secrets that used to be hidden in the system for ordering your own car or evaluating a car on the lot when you got to a place. They're not secrets anymore. And so why not extend that to the pricing? We acknowledge from the get-go that everyone needs to eat. Everyone needs to make a living. But what dynamic pricing can do is based on supply and demand, but also based on, for instance, if you're quoting a giant formulary with all of these different things, the person who wants to purchase that is looking to get the very best deal possible. And the person selling it is traditionally looking to maximize their profits. Our dynamic pricing model can do all sorts of things. For the person buying, they can set looking at their historic average for purchasing this item, they can set a simple percentage they're willing to go over or would prefer to go under, and we can go out and find all of the things that are priced in that area. That doesn't work as well as the dynamic pricing on the supplier side. The person selling the goods, who knows what they're overstocked and all these other things, can set a margin protect, and it will reprice every single good in that inventory, in that formulary, in that request. It will estimate the annual sales of that thing, and it will adjust every single price to give the people buying the best deal on the products that we can come down the most in margin on, and protect the margin or even raise the margin of some things they're used to buying for less that are in higher demand. And the overall effect is, because they're doing less work, the supplier has fewer costs, so they're increasing their bottom line, right? There's not as many expenses coming out of that top line revenue. And they're getting through these warehouses full of stuff that might have just been sitting there before, and they're finding more purchasers. The purchasers are now part of this pool where they are exposed to a larger group of companies. They are exposing all of the stuff they're buying. They can see all the places they can get in, so they're armed with that knowledge. So no one's paying MSRP. There's no more manufacturer's adjusted retail price. There's no more distributor protected margin. But what there is an overall protection for all of your sales over the course of the year and all of your purchases over the course of the year. And on both sides, you're spending less time, so you're both getting more bottom line revenue. So you might be making theoretically a smaller top line margin or top line revenue at a seller of goods, but your bottom line is going to be higher. You're making more money per thing. So if you go back and look at it, your actual margin, which is your gross minus your expense equals your cost to purchase, et cetera, equals a net. Your net margins are higher. Your purchaser is actually spending overall in the scheme of a year less. So they're happy. It's a win-win situation. Everyone literally gets to eat their cake. Or in this case, everyone gets like a free Band-Aid.
Is this something that is within the arms of Base 86 solely, or is this something that's industry-wide? Because what you're saying to me is, if I was on the manufacturing side and I just really wanted to be uncomfortable with things and gouge the price, and as people needed my specific kind of equipment, I could just charge whatever the heck I wanted. It feels like you're squeezing them down in that respect. But the way you're describing it is, it really creates this sort of neutral space between one end and the other end of the entire supply chain. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yes, because for instance, manufacturers of specialty items who are used to being able to charge a super high premium. First of all, if you stop to think about it, probably the most egregious example that most people are aware of is pharmaceuticals. The average American purchaser of pharmaceuticals, whether it's a person getting their prescription meds or a hospital system buying in bulk to use inside their hospital, or anyone in the system, it pays 4 times the cost on average of, say, a European equivalent person. They have some things that people forget about. There are some efficiencies that come with a controlled healthcare cost model. That's what a single payer system is. That single payer is determining the prices. That is an inefficient marketplace in and of itself, though. If you look, they have fewer specialists. They have less access overall to some cutting edge surgeries and things because they haven't been approved by the single payer yet. In our model, in our free market model of healthcare, with caveat, because of the government's involvement in Medicare and Medicaid, because of all of the different regulations that affect this market, it's not a truly free market. But it's a small market ultimately. It's large in terms of dollar volume. It's insanely large. But the number of players in it are relatively small. They all kind of know what everyone else is doing. Now, they might not know where to buy a specific item or source a specific item. A manufacturer might not know about a market they're not reaching, or they're working with a distributor who's not effectively taking their product and selling it. All of those inefficiencies are hiding in that same data set we've been talking about all along. So, for instance, for a manufacturer, our system can be used by them the same way a supplier's using it. They have inputs into their manufacturing process. They have to purchase from people, and then they have to sell their product on to people. So we can look at all of their inputs and help them become more efficient in their purchasing and automate their purchasing. So they don't spend. The idea of automation is to get rid of manual and menial problems by using AI that can become 99.999% accurate, and it gets its accuracy from the very people who are doing this manually and menially now. They still log into the system to get it started. They still correct things that they see that are wrong. We capture their institutional knowledge. I mean, there's just so much scrap that's left on the floor right now. So, your institutional knowledge, someone retires out of the system, everything they know is gone. There's no way of capturing that right now. These legacy systems don't support it. But what AI can do is help your organization remember everything that's going on, make judgments about that. Now, when I say judgments, I don't mean final decisions about them, but judgments like these things on paper, we can show you in the data set, these are costing you. These things are missed opportunities. That can all be surfaced. So at every step of the operation, from building something, to buying something, to selling that thing on, we can capture all of these manual and menial scraps, these inefficiencies. They're just cluttering the office. Landmines you have to step over. And no one likes a landmine. No one wants to try and step over it day after day after day. I feel for the person at a manufacturer, at a distributor, or at a hospital who's dual screening. And you've seen it. I see it. I'm in physical therapy right now because I badly tore my calf muscle on the right side playing tennis back at the beginning of the summer. And I'm still recovering from that.
Okay.
And I walk into that to check in for physical therapy on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And these poor people behind the counter have two little monitors. They're always the cheapest monitors, burning into your eyes. It's just low quality. They're copying and pasting stuff back and forth between spreadsheets, between multiple different systems and this is not a giant hospital. This is just a orthopedic surgery and physical rehabilitation place that services the Central Ohio market.
Okay.
Think about that at large. And so once the data surfaces, even the manufacturer is going to maybe see some pressure on their pricing, even if they're the one place to get it, because everyone's looking at pricing and everyone's looking at margin with that same intelligence that you can now have when you walk in to buy a car. And the manufacturer is going to get some of the efficiencies just the same. Here's some other expenses for them. They have to push out all those spec sheets. They have to update all of the SKUs. They have to get that to every last distributor. Each of those distributors is buying, usually in medical, on a contract and rebate system where they agree to purchase a certain amount, but they can sell it on, but if their end user doesn't buy it or buys enough to qualify for these BOGOs, TRIGOs, all these different sales gimmicks, then they get to send that back as a form to the manufacturer, and the manufacturer has to rebate them some of the money. We eliminate that whole process. There's no, or at least automate it if they really insist on selling that way. Fine, you're losing out on dynamic pricing, you're making a headache for yourself. But if you want to sell that way, for both ends, sometimes the manufacturer gets to keep extra money, sometimes the manufacturer has to pay out a lot of money that they had already booked as revenue. All of these systems are ridiculously inefficient. So the urge to get the absolute maximum amount of money, there's very few places where that happens. Maybe if you spent billions of dollars developing a life-saving cancer drug that's for maybe 1,000 people, you're charging them like $50,000 a dose. And it's going to stay that way until it comes out of patent and becomes generic. But other than that, you don't actually see, even the current system, a lot of places where they're like the one company that can make this new 3D generation MRI that doesn't require injecting a radioactive dye into you. They still, even though it's expensive, it still has to be priced within a model because of the way insurance and healthcare reimbursement and payment is structured. It has to be priced within a model where that machine can stay in operation long enough and do enough scans that it pays for itself. If it can't, it doesn't matter if they're the only people to make it, no one's going to buy it. There is a natural limitation on that urge to make as much money as you can. And I'm sorry, it's our goal. It's our goal at Base 86 to break that cycle.
Yeah,
it is. We are very transparent about what we want to do. We do not want to take individuals who work in the system and put them out of work. But what we would like to do is everyone in that system become far more efficient at their job by getting rid of the stuff they don't want to do. It's not a value add to you to have to copy and paste for 6 hours a day. You can only get to do 2 hours doing creative work or work that helps further the company or further the outcome for the patient or anything that you're doing in your job. There's in every single job, there's a moment of joy. We want to maximize those moments of joy and we want to decrease the expense. Now, will this slow hiring? Possibly. But the thing is that we live in an economy where in all of the first world, and especially in the United States, but Italy shows us, Japan shows us, we don't have the birth rates we used to have. So for every 5 retirees, there's only like 2 people entering the system. So we have to make people more efficient, even if there was no other reason, just to keep what we have humming, to keep the people that paid in Social Security getting their stuff in, because this is a healthcare podcast in addition to AI podcast. We got to figure out a way to take care of all those people on Medicaid, Medicare, et cetera. Like, if we don't have more efficient people inside the system each year, we're not going to be able to provide care for everyone. So I've now given you 10 reasons we should do this.
Yeah. There is. Yeah.
Pick 2 or 3 that really float your boat. But as we're looking here, I mean, for your audience, Travis, anyone who's coming to Kickstand AI and anyone who's looking at this show that we're recording right now, they already have a natural interest in this. They might be coming from inside the profession. They might be on the other side of the tools that we're building and that everyone in this industry is building. And they might be on the other side wanting to use it, and they want to know, how is this going to impact my life? I will tell you, at every level, anyone watching the show, you will do less manual and menial work. We want to get rid of the mundane and replace it with the extraordinary. Everyone has to do this ultimately.
Yeah, well stated.
People needing more and more help, with people living longer than they ever have before. I mean, I've gone through end of life with my grandparents. My parents are now getting rather old. every generation is living longer and needing, over the course of those last decades, even if they are really active and really healthy, and when you get to be 90, you just need help with stuff. So let's give them that help by making everyone who works inside the system work a little bit less on copy paste and a little bit more on taking care of people.
Yeah, I like it. And it reminds me of a couple of other conversations I've recently had. One of them in particular relates to medical surplus. And maybe 5 or 10 minutes back, I kind of slowed you on a point that you were making, kind of leading into a bit of the forecasting space of it. And what I might say is, when I go back and have those conversations and they say, Travis, I don't know that you're aware of this, but we've shipped 29, 40-foot containers overseas filled to the top with medical surplus supplies that were perfectly fine, right? We're not talking about consumable stuff. We're talking about crutches and wheelchairs and whatnot. They're being moved out because of what might be within this particular supply chain, right? Folks are not optimizing what it is that they're getting. Maybe things are being put into a closet that's on the 5th floor in the middle, that's unmarked door, and no one knows what the heck it is except for the maintenance guy who happens to run into it every quarter or so. But the reality of what we're experiencing, not only in that surplus, and also if it's not picked up by a group like that, this one, Partners for World Health, it's going somewhere else. And typically that's the landfill. So when you think of this sort of forecasting space here, you're not only talking about the pricing and helping people live healthier lives, you're also talking about some environmental spaces here. But let me squeeze us back into that forecasting sort of predictability kind of stuff, because I think that it's a very powerful thing of where Base 86 is looking, maybe where you guys are taking us. But talk to us a little bit about this predictive nature of what we should be doing right now to make sure we don't end up in that space where surplus supplies are just kind of thrown about.
Well, what is the problem with surplus? Whether it's everyone listening to this podcast, I'm sure. I'm sure. Everyone in the healthcare industry we're talking about, I'm sure, in their own home has a closet. It's full of clothing that they don't fit into anymore because they started using Ozempic or Mounjaro. It's full of stuff from their kids, some of it unopened, and their kids are already in college. And what is the inertia for my mother-in-law just remodeled her home, and she has these perfectly usable, very new looking, probably not even installed that long ago, but they're contractor grade blinds. They should go to Habitat for Humanity. Who's going to get it there? She's not retired yet. She's not here near where we live all the time. She's still where she does her job most of the time, and she's planning on her in here, so she'll be by her grandkids. I had to go over there. I'm the only one besides her that knows those are sitting there. I had to go over there, collect them, take them to Habitat. Now, some folks in the home market would drive around in a big van, and they send you a flyer that says, if you've got stuff, we'll be here on this day. Who remembers what day that is? It's a piece of paper. It comes in the mail. You probably toss it along with all the extra coupon books and catalogs of stuff you haven't bought in 10 years. Why not? For each of these medical groups, they're doing this, whether it's Kravitz, Lenny Kravitz, the rock and roll guy, has a program he does with some New York-based dental supply companies where they go to the islands in the Caribbean and they do all of these procedures, and they get all of the stuff for those procedures from this excess you're talking about. That means someone has to set up that organization, someone has to go solicit that from other people, someone has to collect all of that stuff versus putting it in the landfill, and it goes to the landfill, whether it's from your own house because you forgot about that pickup where they come around and get it from you. The only Habitat for Humanity is on the far side of town. You don't want to drive all the way over there because traffic's bad. There's all of this inertia in a system where only a few people know what that thing is, as you said. And also, only a few people are dealing with that thing. And everyone else is like, I don't even know where to take this. Even if I knew what it was, I don't know where to take this.
Yeah.
Well, those same groups that do this donation work, this same system with this AI can surface where these things are, and they can proactively use new tools like the AI functions in LinkedIn or some of the networking tools that AI is helping to create AI outreach where they automates the message and inserts the information from our data sets. There's all sorts of different ways to make the outreach more efficient. But if you can tell more people in more places, not just, hey, we have this amazing mission and you might want to contribute to it, or hey, I'm sure you have some stuff that you're not using. It says, we went to Base 86 and you've signed a box just like you do for organ donor, and so they can give us this information about what is where that might not be used up yet. And so we do this thing, and here's what we repair fistulas in sub-Saharan Africa. We do teeth in Myanmar. We do, we've got a hospital down in a rural area in the United States even, or a rural area of, say, Mexico, which is nearby, and it's heavy equipment, and you don't want to move it yourself. We can come pick that up, and we can put it in that shipping container that you were talking about. So it makes the outreach more efficient. It makes the respondent who has the stuff, all I have to do is figure out what closet it's in. Can you tell me about it? Well, yeah. The AI data set doesn't just have a product number. It's got the long form and short form descriptions. It's got pictures of it. It's got all the stuff that we help from the manufacturer level get into their catalogs, the supplier and distributor to put online, the end user to be able to see and order. That same system of linking from top to bottom and using AI to power the data means that you can give literally like ABC spreadsheet to someone, and they can use that data to go help the closet, the person with the closet it's in.
Yeah.
Dig it out of the closet, find it. Here's all the information on it. Here's what you're looking for. And if you can't do it, you tell us the 5 places where no one's checked or done inventory. We'll go in and look at them with one of your staff. And we won't try and get it out of here, and we won't violate any liability insurance. But we can even help you find it probably.
But where does your reach stop then? Where does Base 86 stop? Outside of that, the connections between those two groups that you initially mentioned, we're now referencing things that happen way at the end state, past the user experience. It's now sitting in the junk drawer of the hospital, if you will. Where does your reach stop?
Where are we now? We are not integrated in that stuff. I would love to be integrated in that example you came up with. I'm aware of it. I've heard people talk about it. I know what the impact of it is. And from suffering rural health systems here in America that just can't keep up with the changing expense and the landscape that exists now, and the doctors are fleeing to higher profit city centers. The hospital groups don't want to manage these rural clinics. So at every step, there's information about this stuff. We are not in that yet. No one. We've sent out some feelers to a few groups, but they don't have the time to pay attention to it. So we picked an entry point, and that was the middleman, sitting between the manufacturer and the end user. That was the small, narrow part of the market where we could get in, and now we're spreading out in both directions. We have 2 products, 86 Insights, and that's our AI-driven spend analysis. It detects the leakage in each step of the supply chain. It does that automatic pricing we're talking about. It does enough inventory control that you're never overstocked with stuff or completely out of stuff. It does enough tracking that you can track down at least where these things went to that might have a recall, and then you can be more proactive because the people at that place have more time on their hands because they're using 86 Supplies, which is our unified storefront. It's a procurement platform that can be used by the end purchaser, and that end purchaser has all that data now. And then the next step of that would be, hey, let's find some worthwhile places. We've started our first test case with someone who sells used equipment. And the way his market is structured is he's got all of these outpatient surgery centers. They come, they go. And he's got access to all of this equipment. And he's got people that are building a whole new surgery center or a whole new office. And they've got from their design company the specs of the space, all of the model numbers of the things they're getting. And they have to make a decision. Do I go 100% new? And probably not. It's, if you're buying a fleet of vehicles for your business, you don't buy all new cars generally. You buy some used vehicles, you buy some specialty vehicles. Like, okay, look, I need 3 of these flatbed trucks that are of a certain dimension that only fit into these narrow alleyways where we have to pick stuff up and get it out in this set of cities we work in. Or it's all-wheel drive and off-road and ready to go into any part of the outback in Australia or some rural part of here of America. So they're buying a combination of new and used anyway. So they come with their list, and these used equipment suppliers have a list of all the stuff they have, the condition it's in. It's rated from, AA, it's rated like bonds from AAA down to EE. An EE bond, you're paying some pretty high insurance rates. In EE equipment, you're getting some pretty dented ding stuff. These guys are sitting on these warehouses, and they're turning over a certain amount. Their business relies on procuring at a lower rate than they sell at. But they've got this stuff they procured at a low rate, and as long as they sell it at that rate, or a little bit above that rate, they're not losing money. So we are working with them to take this stuff that's kind of been sitting in their supply chain for a while and to make it available to new marketplaces, including some of these rural healthcare systems, to get it overseas, et cetera, if it's shippable. And how we enable that is not just we're trying it out with this company, but this will be repeatable in the future once it's trained. And it's trained on everything. We're going to know how many pallets it takes up, what its shipping weight is, gross tonnage for putting it on a truck, putting it on a boat, putting it in a plane. Because these are all expensive parts that go into the cost analysis. So, when you're online shopping and you go to checkout and they're like, it's not Amazon, it's not Prime shipping, you're going to check out someplace where they're going to charge you shipping, and you bought some big stuff. And it calculates, it's like, oh, your shipping cost is going to be, and you're like, whoa.
It's 3 times the price of the product.
Cancel. Yeah. So, you'll know those expenses ahead of time. So you won't even go, like if you have a limited shipping budget, you won't even explore that option. So it's going to naturally select for the best purchaser or best place to donate those goods. So it will work itself out. But right now, we're deep into the supplier with our 86 Insights product. We're moving that into the manufacturer side to make them more efficient, both in how they bring in their raw materials, but mostly right now in how they sell. So how they prepare their materials and how they do all of the marketing materials that go out and all of the sale and all that pricing analysis. And then 86 Supplies is active and growing in the end user space, and then you can bolt on after that. Do we want to work with some charities? Do we want to work with some used equipment folks? Do we want to go into another industry like construction? There's a lot of different options, but we're healthcare focused, and we're expanding our tentacles. I know it sounds evil, but we're not metastasizing cancer. We view ourselves as a force for good. We want to.
That's fair. I like it.
And actually focus on making good stuff, selling good stuff, and using good stuff to fix people.
Yes. Yeah. But I will tell you, it's not just the neighbors that steal your tools, but sometimes you just lose them. And I think I've purchased the same shovel like 15 times because I just keep losing the darn thing. But
you don't know where it is.
Who knows?
You took it over to help a friend out and you left it there.
Yeah. Who knows? Well, I will tell you, it's been a great conversation. So I might end on just a quick note here, because Base 86 is an organization that's clearly disrupting multiple industries as you've gone, starting in the food tech space, certainly here now in health tech. And I would say that as you continue to move forward, where do you see this going? We talked a little bit about the far end past the user experience space, but what kinds of new innovations do you see that you would say, hey, Travis, look out for Base 86 in this particular space? You kind of dipped your toes in some of that spot, but help me understand, what do you think is the next disruptor in the healthcare supply chain space?
Where are we going next outside of healthcare, or what is going to be disrupted next in healthcare?
Can I say yes to that set of questions?
Inside healthcare, you already see, we're in the HealthWorks cohort for this next 12-week program. It's an accelerator who is invested in us a modicum of money, and their goal is to further integrate with health systems, and that includes every health system now in America, for the most part, has gotten so big that there's at least a statewide for a lot of the stuff. Now, there are smaller groups doing specialty stuff, but in general, there's all of Alabama under one umbrella. And they're looking for efficiencies too, not just to increase their bottom line, but to be able to continue to operate and do their things. They're looking at all sorts of stuff. So they're investing in companies like ours. They're making evaluations about how to use that technology. So what I see in the HealthWorks space, if you look at our cohort, it's about finding where to get care. And if you think about it right now, if you have insurance, for instance, there's only some providers that accept your insurance. There's only some providers that have open slots. Your insurance company, I don't care which one it is. I'm not going to throw shade at one of them. I'm going to throw shade at all of them. Your insurance company's website is impossible for finding a provider that will take the insurance and actually has availability, and who can help you with what you specifically need, your specialty you're looking for, or your general you're looking for if you haven't had a general physical in years. It's terrible. And so if you look at these other AI companies, because all of HealthWorks is pretty much AI-based stuff. It's healthcare focused. There is non-AI in it, but almost everyone is using AI to do these things because it's combing through data sets that no one bothers to update. The reason your health insurance site stinks at finding a place for you to go get care that accepts your insurance and that has availability is that they don't have that data in general. They don't bother to try and get that data. They don't update that data when they have it. And then the people that they're getting the data from, they're changing their sites all the time, right? My provider has gone through 3 different login portals for me, and then now we're back to Epic again. Yeah. But my old Epic login, it does not work. I have to create a new Epic.
Of course.
So these systems aren't efficient. And so there's a whole bunch of startups in our cohort who are they're each focused on a particular part of the marketplace. One of them was elder care. One of them was mental health. One of them was physical health for people that have mobility limitations, who have a harder time finding affordable options. So the access part of the equation is where a lot of people are working right now. That's not where we're working personally. Although there is a knock-on effect from making each level of the healthcare stack more efficient, is that the stack that provides services will have more time to intake new patients instead of dealing with copy and paste. But these guys are going to the heart of the matter. So that's where I see it right now, is helping people. It's the same as the goods in a closet you were talking about, but it's empty spots in all of these systems that really would like to have a full day for everyone who works there. But the people who have the insurance can't find them. The people they're paying out of pocket don't know if they can afford it. But all that data is there. It just needs to be organized. And human beings have spring cleaning for a reason. They go all year just shoving stuff in closets. See their shovels, like you, Travis. Did I leave it with my friend Larry? Did I use it to bury the dog over the?
That's right.
I don't know where that is. So they're solving the access issue. That's where I see it expanding. It's not where basically personally is going to expand, but that's where AI is expanding in healthcare. I want to say a good half of the cohort was doing access-related stuff to help all of those things I talked about. I see the sharing economy is done so well with AI predictions on where should we tell, they're just contractors, we don't pay them, but where should we tell our Uber and Lyft drivers to circulate because we know where demand is going to peak based on all the different data we have. I see that as a logical step for planning the expansion of health systems, for planning the specialties, for using that AI to be constantly steering people to things that will make their health better, which can include starting to think holistically. So I do see, not that everyone's turning into some sort of hippie, fruit nut granola, yoga practicing ashram person, but there are people who receive really tangible benefits from non-traditional medicines and therapies. And those results can be put onto all sorts of things, from your chronotype for sleep to your DNA for certain inheritable things. Right? I come from a long line of men who dropped dead of heart attacks. My dad had his first one at 55. I'm 48 already. I can see that coming around the corner. But being connected to alternative cares, instead of just taking like a blood pressure medication, for instance, because my blood pressure was going up with the stress of work, with having a family, with all the things, stuff happens. But getting involved in more yoga, and I do a very active form. I like active. I am a runner. I'm a tennis player. I'm a hardcore sweaty yoga person. But that combined with mindfulness and just spending a little bit of time thinking my way through things, calming down, not letting the anger take over, without additional medication, my blood pressure is back to like a 120/80. I took it this morning, 121/80. I'll take it again this PM. I upload that data. It goes into a system, right? And my medical system I'm part of, like, who am I going to choose? I work at an AI company. I'm going to choose the most medically advanced and the most technologically advanced AI and data-driven medical provider I can. And so I've got a company with a few offices around the place that is tapped into this entirely. And so they provide all of these other ideas. Here's what we can do for you, but we only have so much time and space, and there's so much money that it costs. Here's some other things you should try. And so you know who's going to benefit from acupuncture, even if these things are all psychosomatic. For the person who's experiencing a benefit, it's a benefit. Who cares where it comes from? It's all in your head. Yeah. So identifying new marketplaces and new therapies and treatments, new to you, but that have proven efficacy amongst people like you for your condition. We have that data. AI can organize that data for you in the same way that we're doing it, which is combining a data set with a large language model to understand not just the numbers in the set, but what those words mean, and then comparing it to actual people and actual situations.
Stuff that exists right now.
That's where it's going inside healthcare. Access to existing treatments and information about and access to alternative treatments to improve overall longevity and lifespan. And not just improve your chronological age, but improve your perceived age. You know, the actual age extension, but the health extension of living well. And then another market. I mean, any market can benefit from what we're doing, and we've got several in mind. I mentioned construction already. Going back to other areas of F&B, food and beverage, or hospitality overall. I'm sorry, if you've ever tried to book a discounted hotel room, everyone in that space has limitations. I'm just going to say there's limitations. There's NPCs on airplanes. There's all of these things that cost money that we can get access to, and we can improve for people. And it's not going to cost jobs. It's going to make those jobs much more enjoyable to do. The issue with AI right now and where people are investing in it, I don't know who else you talk to, but I'm sure you've heard this before. I don't have to cover it much because we've already worked our way through this part of it. But you've got a lot of people who don't know what to do with the AI. Okay, there's this tool. What can I do with it? How do I use it? So they're making capital investments on the tools and technology. They're spending money on training the people there. They're trying to figure out how to use it. That's manually doing the data set.
It is. And that hits the third bucket that we typically hear about, which is, if I work my way to it, the first bucket being those that are a little bit still hesitant about AI, what it's going to do for me, what it's going to help me do better at. But frankly, I'm still a little hesitant because I just hear people talking about it. That bucket is shrinking quite a bit. People are starting to understand it. You know, you've got ChatGPT ads out there now about getting more fit by the fall, you know, and this young man trying to do pull-ups, right? So there's this dialogue that's beginning to happen. That first bucket is shrinking. The second bucket of, hey, I've tried it and it's just not producing what I think it should be producing. That's creating some interesting sort of legacy thinking of, hey, it's not as good as what I wanted it to be. And I have this kind of magical sense of like what it should be doing for me. When I hit one button, it should just do everything. And then the third bucket, which is one that we're increasingly hearing about, which is, hey, Travis, I've just spent $250,000. And after hearing the problem, I say that's a $5,000 problem. And folks are sort of jumping at AI, having now tried it. It felt like it was going to work a little bit, but I'm not really sure. Maybe I just need to invest more. So they throw a bunch of money at it, only to realize that what they solved was, exactly. It was a very small amount of actual value. And so we find ourselves kind of straddling these spaces of saying, let's continue to work on that first bucket, which admittedly, to your point, is definitely shrinking. Folks are kind of getting past that concept of what is it, and I'm nervous about it. As we move into other spaces, however, this is maybe a conversation to come later. The idea of companion AI is something that we hear about in the healthcare space quite a bit. I've had plenty of conversations with folks in residential facilities who have said, hey, Travis, I am fill in the blank. It's usually one of two things. Residential facility, that might be for specific trauma or mental health issues that a companion would certainly help. Or if you think down on the other end, older individuals who may be lonely at night and what that looks like for them. Now, the dynamic between what a companion bot and what they're asking us to do and what we have the capability of doing is this. As soon as you start doing things like having a bot talk to somebody, does it record? One. Two, is it used by a healthcare provider in any real or material way? And three, which is the most iffy spot, if you ask me, when you have individuals, especially on the older end of that spectrum, that have power of attorneys by way of their child or some other loved one, do those individuals now get the recordings and the conversations that older individual has had with that particular bot? Those are intimate conversations. They might be private conversations. It might be a journaling kind of thing. If you think about it as just a verbal journal, what does that really look like in the space of your protected health information? What does it look like in the space of the transmission of that transcript? Who gets their hands on it? How's it used by providers? And the world starts to kind of open up in very different ways when you use these technologies. But those three buckets are very much still alive, although shrinking and growing at different scales. But the front edge of where we really see some of these questions coming up in the provider space is really, how do my patients handle it? Not necessarily me, hey, can I get a front desk chatbot anymore? Like that's been there, done that. And folks are taking advantage of that, but it's now, how do my patients take advantage of it? And what can I give them to make better use of the lifestyle medicine, the preventative care? And, what do we do about trying to make this as a part of their life that helps them live healthier well into their 70s, 80s, and 90s, when you would typically have somebody really seeing those last couple of decades just fall off, 40 or 50% of your current level of activity. How do you get them to 70 or 80% because they have these capabilities now or these technologies? It's kind of interesting stuff that's out there. But I know we're at the end here. I sort of talked over those last few minutes here, Jess, but I will say I've very much enjoyed the conversation. Any final thoughts on where we're going, where Base 86 is going? Where I kept the shovel, you might even know, who knows, but any final thoughts?
Not yet, but
okay.
Not yet, but with access to, and this is where all these privacy concerns come in at every level, with access to the insane amount of data that your cell phone is giving me about where you've been to. We can combine that data with what a shovel is used for. And unless you're just randomly driving around with a shovel in your car and you toss it out the window, got it out of the trunk when you were at a park to go hiking with your dog and didn't put it back in the trunk, or someone, you put it down behind you and you spent 30 seconds getting that thing and some thief took it. Other than those edge cases, no help. But what you're talking about with the privacy issues, those are real. And they're already out there, not specifically in the healthcare, but certainly addressing that marketplace you're talking about, is whether it's set up by someone with a power of attorney or a caregiver for someone who's older, locked in, dementia, all the different things that can really limit your communication with the outside world that AI can help with. AI does not care if you have short-term memory loss. AI will repeat itself all day with you. It does not care. It doesn't get frustrated. It doesn't go, where is the person I used to know? You don't get angry at it, and it doesn't get angry at you generally. I do when I'm trying to use to program something. I don't have good computer programming skills, but I can think like at least a project manager, if not a systems architect, about all the things that need to happen and get a rudimentary wireframe or some basic app around that. And so I work with some of the AIs that specialize in this. I get very frustrated when they tell me they can do something, or I give it too long a list of instructions, like, you're going to do this, 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 and this. And it gets stuck at this at the beginning, and then just spinning, and it won't tell you. It's worse than a 6-year-old. Yeah. Leave the light on. It's in your room. It'll also be in your room. This morning, I didn't leave those used tissues on the table. You've got a runny nose. It's where you. And the only other humans here are either too small to use their own tissues, or two adults who never leave a tissue on the table. They throw them in the trash. I didn't do it. Okay.
Kids are good liars.
Like right now, Meta has. You can create your own chatbot in Messenger. You can go in and tell it, like, I want an English professor who taught, the era of Dead Poet Society, and you can have a virtual Robin Williams, English professor from Dead Poet Society, and talk with it all day long. So that exists, and there's privacy concerns. We saw those coming, and so Base 86, and especially we handle the people we work with are protective of their own data. They're worried about it being shared. They want it anonymized. They want to participate as little in the sharing pool as possible and get the maximum amount of benefits. I get it. Whether it's a warning on a website that says, do you accept these cookies? Or on any of the AI products I use, it's like, here's some additional things we can do for you, but we'll need these additional permissions. And I get very wary because I don't know if they went through the same process Base 86 went through. Which is when we made the decision to go into AI, and when we knew that we'd be touching a lot of data, before we had pushback from a single customer going, whoa, I don't know what we're going to do with my stuff. Whoa, I don't know how this can be used to all my competitors. Whoa, I just met you, I don't trust you yet. We sat down and we said, what would we want for our own data? We want transparency. We want control. We want to be able to delete it and know that it's all going to get wiped. We want to know it's not going to be shared with another company. Internally, we want strict privacy controls. You'll notice that I have not named a single client. I have not talked about the people we work with. Some of them are very large companies, some of them are very small companies. That's as much information as I'm going to give you. We're more than one company. Some are big, some are small, some are medium. I can tell you what marketplace we're in, healthcare. That's why we're on a healthcare AI podcast. And that's about all I'm ever going to tell you. Because I want that same transparency with the people I work with, my customers. I want that transparency with my family when I get home. I want to be able to live an open life that is still incredibly respectful of people's privacy. We're talking about some intimate stuff, as you alluded to. So what Base 86 has done from its beginning is create these core values of transparency, of forgiveness. If someone messes up, they know in our company, they're not going to get instantly fired and raked over the coals. We don't start with punishment unless something is really egregious. We start with, come to us. You think you've made a mistake. You think you've done something that violates our data policy. Come to us. Tell us about it. Let's work together to fix it. That's internal and it's external with people we work with. Oh, you took a big scope of work that we sent you and you forwarded it on to some other people and now it's been leaked everywhere and it's got our private data in it. We tell people in advance that we know mistakes will be made, and the important thing is to recognize the mistake's been made, to address it immediately, and as my mother always said, when you say you're sorry, it means you know you've hurt someone and you're going to try not to do it again. So those internal, company-wide goals and values of supporting each other, protecting each other, respecting each other's privacy, we translated those out into our customer base. We ask them to work with us in the same way. We don't do a lot of these like 20-page contracts with a bunch of hidden crap in it. We want to avoid at all costs possible these negative outcomes that you've alluded to. We're talking about sensitive shit. Pardon the French here, but it's serious. So I think the industry is going to wither on the vine if it doesn't come to grips with humans. You can have all the knowledge you want about bots and LLMs and all these different algorithms and all of these things that are not human. You can program something that's nearly human. You can have that interaction with someone who's older. But if you don't think about the human cost, if you don't think about safety, if you don't think about privacy, if you don't think about the things that we all need every day to get through life without our heads exploding from the strain of how ridiculous things can be. If you're not thinking about those from the get-go, then you're going to design a product that's going to be used in a way that is malicious and harmful. That's the biggest issue I see with AI, particularly the consumer level right now. So, Claude and Anthropic can go on every podcast related to music and tell you that Claude is your companion for music. And you'll learn all about these artists and you can do a deep dive as much as you want to get into it. I'm sure it'll increase their customer base. Are they protecting the privacy of the artists whose information they're putting there? Are they respecting takedown requests? Right? Information's out there. You asked it to be taken down. That should happen immediately. So this is an excellent way to wrap up. Everyone who's thinking about AI, whether they're using it or developing it, needs to think, how can I make this safe? And how can I make this effective? And it's the same way. You identify the problem first and you work for a solve to the problem. You don't go, I want to use AI. I'm going to beat everything in my organization with this giant AI hammer. That's how you spend, as you said earlier, $250,000 and get $5,000 worth of progress.
That's right.
And that's also how you hurt people. That's how your grandfather ends up institutionalized and stripped of their assets and all sorts of bad outcomes. This is how people get denied access to life-saving care. So everyone needs to think about the problem first. The safety problem, the problem in your organization where you're trying to make it more efficient. Start with the problem and craft a solution to that problem and make sure that that solution is as close to 100% effective as you can make it.
I like it. Well stated.
Put the human back in human-like intelligence, right? It's artificial intelligence. It's artificially us. It's artificially what makes us different from every other animal on this earth. Protect
It's the real human in the loop. It's the real human.
Don't go with this deus ex machina. It's out of our hands. It's doing its own thing. No, design it from the beginning to be safe and secure, as well as incredibly efficient.
Awesome.
Those things are not mutually exclusive. And those things are what will make your AI last. I don't want to win a customer because I lied to them or I tried to sell them too much stuff. I ask first, what problems do you have? Not even around data. I will listen to 30 minutes. I'll do a therapy session with a new customer so they can unload and we can cut to what their problems are that we can actually solve or help with or something for them. But I want them to start at 50,000 feet and talk about all the problems so that we're addressing not just the problems that we do directly, but we're making sure we don't make the other problems worse. So whether it's privacy or autonomous cars running over puppies or chatbots getting people so wound up that they kill themselves. There's a lot said about that right now. Right? Protect first. Protect first. Then solve problem. Put guardrails in.
Problem, solution, then the tools. I'll say, I don't know that I could have wrapped this up any better than that, Jess. So thank you for doing my job. I absolutely appreciated you being on the podcast here. All right, man. I'm gonna let you go. I will be back with you shortly.